and welcome Alex Crook, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, and rightly so. Mr. Crook, good morning.
How you doing?
Good afternoon, I should say. I should know. It's 20 to 1. How have you been?
I've been good. Yeah, busy weekend. Community Shield in Cardiff on Sunday. Was at Portsmouth, seeing them lose their first championship game the day before, and obviously we're building up to the start of the Premier League. I'm off to speak to Richard Masters this afternoon, and we're going to get into him about Manchester City's 115 so far unanswered charges.
Good luck with that. I tried that, and he came out with the straight bat.
Yeah.
As Stefan was saying there, it's now beyond belief how long it's taken.
Yeah, especially when you look how quickly clubs like Everton and Leicester and Forest, and in the Championship, Southampton kicked out of that playoff final, have been dealt with. It's been dragging on for too long. We get Richard Masters once a year. We ask him every year, any update? He can't talk about it because it's obviously a private process, but something has to give sooner rather than later, surely.
You would think, Simon. I mean, it's now beyond a joke. It never was a joke. But it's now become ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't compare what's happened with Forest and Everton because they were guilty of the offences. Man City are defending the accusation. So there's no admission of guilt. There was an admission of guilt. It was about the consequences of their guilt and how guilty they were that Everton and other people were Nottingham Forest were arguing from their position. That's why it got to a quick conclusion. But you know my view on it. I told you this would take years. And if Man City are to lose it, I mean, there's a variety of reasons why I don't think they'll lose this situation, because I think there's a whole raft of things going on behind the scenes. I think there's a lot of politics involved. So I wouldn't be surprised if Man City aren't facing any...
Would you not have expected a first judgment by now?
Yes, of course, but that's the lack of professionalism that the Premier League have exhibited. If you engage, as Stefan and I have spitballed previously, about the nature of the engagement... We want you to adjudicate these, and here is the time frame you can adjudicate it in, panel. Can you undertake this work or not?
Yeah.
Now, the 115 charges was always a ridiculous thing anyway, because it was a ridiculous amount of charges. And there is a school of thought that says the legal framework judges every charge, but for a week, for every charge you bring against someone, it should take a week to adjudicate it. So you could suggest that they've got 115 weeks to come back and answer this question, which would take you into the sort of time frame that we're in now. A lot of these charges are replicated because it's just the same charge being replicated because it keeps on being repeated on the same set of different set of accounts each year.
Yeah.
But I said to you at the time, if this were to be a situation that was to go against Man City, then they would appeal, and we would be at the end of the decade. Well, that doesn't seem so far-fetched now, does it?
No,
because
it
if Man City were to be found guilty, and we don't know what the circumstances are, of course we don't, because we haven't seen anything to give us an indication either which way.
Yeah.
But if they were to be found guilty, they'd appeal and would be into another process of another 18 months. Then you'd be at the end of the decade, like I said.
Sure. Tuesday, the 1st of September is fast approaching, and we know what happens then. So clubs trying to do deals. Vicario's out of Tottenham Hotspur, Alex. It's a summer of change there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and no real surprise. I think Roberto De Zerbi is a big fan of Antonin Kinski, who came into the team towards the end of the last season, obviously helped them stay up. I think Vicario was always going to move on, looked like Inter Milan at one stage, but it's Juventus now on loan, having a medical today with a permanent option of £8.5 million at the end of the season. Does leave Emi Martinez in a difficult position because Villa have got a new keeper in Zion Suzuki. He thought he would be off to Juventus, but they pulled out because of doubts over a finger injury. I would still expect Villa to try and move him on in the next couple of weeks. I think it's going to be a busy end to the deadline. Speaking to someone at one of the top Premier League clubs last night, a senior official, he said the next 2 weeks could really kick into life because it has been a pretty slow window because you had the World Cup, which obviously took a lot of people's attentions, and we've had some huge deals in terms of money, Morgan Rogers and Elliot Anderson, but not the vast number of deals we would usually have over a summer.
Yeah. Doesn't it make you laugh about Kinski? All these wet wipes that were sitting there with their clutching their pearls about the fact he got subbed off by the manager at the time. Was it Igor Tudor, wasn't it? And that was the end of his career, and the boy would never recover. Now look at him. He's the goalkeeper of choice and recognised as being the reason why the team stayed in the division.
Mind you weren't wrong to wonder at the time.
No.
He'd had the howler of all howlers.
It was probably character building.
Exactly my point. All people, oh no, God, it's going to be the end of him. And, people like Schmeichel coming out and saying, it's a dreadful thing. Probably the making of him. Why does it always have to be that when people have some adversity or have to show some resilience, that the entire world seems to fall on its sword and turn into this bunch of wet wipes that are terribly worried about the boy's mental condition?
Is Schmeichel not entitled to have that opinion?
But it's a load of old fanny, isn't it? Because ultimately you have to have resilience in society. You have to encourage resilience, not steer into the idea that every time someone has some trouble in their life, that it's their mental well-being we need to look after. build character. The boy had character. He came back and proved the fact that he had character. And
He's your kind of guy, isn't he?
Well, that's what we should be championing in society,
give
not
us-
running around whining about the things that happen in life that aren't perfect.
Yeah.
This is what we missed, Jim, when Simon's been off sunning himself on the Costa del Sol
right.
for the last few weeks.
Yeah, don't fall
Darrow,
apart.
yeah.
Show resilience. What a load of old fanny. Bruno Fernandes. This always seems to be talk about Fernandes.
Yeah, every summer.
Galatasaray serious about this?
I think they are to a point, but I'm not sure he's that serious about swapping Manchester United for the Turkish league. Certainly, United officials seem relatively relaxed. I think it could all be part of a contract negotiation, and I think he'll probably end up signing a new deal. He did have a £57 million release clause that could be activated by overseas clubs. That's now expired. I would be surprised if Bruno Fernandes is not still a Manchester United player come September the 1st, and I'd be surprised if he didn't sign some kind of new deal.
Are we hearing right? Talk of Harry Kane and Saudi.
Yeah, this is probably more long-term, but I've had it on good authority, backed up by more than one source, that Simon Francis, who's left Bournemouth to go and is technical director at Al Hilal, has held conversations with Harry Kane's representatives. Again, the expectation is that he signs a new deal at Bayern Munich. I think he'll be at Bayern at least until the next European Championship, which could well be his last major tournament, but don't totally rule out a move to Saudi after that. They've got a three-man shortlist, Al Hilal, of dream striker targets. Kane is number one, as I'm told. Victor Osimhen, number two. He's flirted with the Saudi Pro League in recent windows. And Ollie Watkins, intriguingly, is on the list as well.
Okay. Who's on Everton's list?
They're looking at Zion Fleming at Burnley, who did all right, actually, in a team that got relegated last season. He scored twice against West Ham on the opening weekend of the Championship. If they could pick him up for a decent fee, I think this could be a good deal.
What's a
for
decent fee for
David
him?
Moyes.
20 million?
Yeah, I was thinking 20, 25, potentially. It wasn't too far away from the Dutch World Cup squad. Certainly was in contention for a seat on the plane.
No disrespect to him, Alex, but it doesn't quite scream European football club in waiting, Everton.
Well, are they really? I mean, I spoke to Jared Branthwaite yesterday, actually, and he said that is an aspiration for this season. I think it's difficult for Everton. It felt to me like last season was their opportunity. They were still in contention right up until the final weekend, but you look at the money the likes of Tottenham and Chelsea are spending, two teams obviously not in Europe next season.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for teams like Everton to compete.
And Chelsea, to finish with, not done yet.
I wouldn't have thought so because it's Chelsea. I think the focus is on getting players out at this moment in time. Keep an eye on Liam Delap, £40 million bounty on his head, as I understand it. Nicolas Jackson, another who could potentially move on. Axel Disasi's got interest from Palace and West Ham. And then I think we're going to be talking a lot about Enzo Fernandes in the next couple of weeks. I can see a scenario, a repeat of what happened when he came from Benfica, where we get to deadline day and Manchester City are trying to get that deal done.
Yeah, do you think that might be the big story
I think it might.
on deadline day?
Yeah, I can see it. And Manchester United trying to do some business as well. We could be talking a lot about the two Manchester clubs.
You'll need to tune in for that. I know it's a
I'll
day
be
you
there.
love.
I'll be there eagerly listening.
I'll be messaging you. Alex, thank you very much indeed. Alex Crook, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent. When are you speaking to Masters?
This afternoon, we got a decent guest list actually. Richard Masters, Howard Webb, Mikel Arteta, Frank Lampard, Victor Gyökeres. Should be a good event.
Great. We'll be hearing some of that tomorrow morning, we hope, on this very show. Alex, thanking you for your contribution as always.